All right. We're at BibleStudyManuals.net, K81.htm. Notice DB Kitts again, University of Oklahoma. A prolific evolutionist writer. Subject of paleontology in America. Writing in the journal Evolution. The claim is made that paleontology provides a direct way to get at the major events of organic history, and that furthermore it provides a means of testing evolutionary theories. Indeed, that is the claim in the textbook, and that's the claim that Stanley made. The paleontologist, he goes on to say, can provide knowledge that cannot be provided by biological principles alone. But he cannot provide us with evolution. Science is report what you observe, not what you think might have happened. Mark Ridley goes on one step further, writing in New Science. A lot of people just don't know what evidence the theory of evolution stands upon. They think that the main evidence is the gradual descent of one species from another in the fossil record. In any case, no real evolutionist, whether gradualist or punctuationist, uses the fossil record as evidence in favor of the theory of evolution as opposed to special creation. Well, I use the fossil record to show the superiority of special creation, Dr. Patton says. Compare this with what E.J.H. Corner says from Cambridge. He says much evidence, he believes, can be adduced in favor of the theory of evolution from biology, biogeography, and paleontology, but I still think that to the unprejudiced, the fossil record of plants, the fossil record of plants, and for that matter of all living things, is in favor of special creation. So he does admit that. See? Well, okay, let's move on to the next page. K91. We're going to look at something that a friend of mine has just brought up. Man as he appears, according to the evolutionists, in a certain period of time, and how we support that, they support that information. Now, original man was the superior man. He did not evolve. According to Dr. Baugh and me, the Bible, it is an amazing fact that man, from Adam to Noah, possessed a composite of approximately 56 characteristics that have never, from Noah's time until the present, been possessed by a single culture of man. What this means is that the original man was a superior man. Let's examine a list of the superior characteristics that mankind possessed. Conceptual analysis. In the Bible it says, and Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. That specific names were given to all varieties of separate groups, with emphasis on distinctions among them, requires the ability to conceptualize objectively, in order to determine that none of the individuals under consideration would be intimately compatible with the observer further enhances the evidence that the observer had mature self-awareness and mental powers. Comparative observation gave names to all cattle and to every beast of the fields. Not only is there distinction made between groups, but comparison and nomenclature is assigned accordingly. 3. Observational articulation gave names to all cattle. Cattle are observed named and seen as being categorically separate from undomesticatable beasts of the field. These assigned names were articulated and memorized for ongoing generations. Whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. That's what it says in the Bible. Such deliberate memorializing for future generations requires sequential listing, even if only by memory. 4.4 Synergistic language. And Adam said that this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Languages which use enlarged expression enhanced by immediate preceding statements require complicated emotional and mental functions. The nature of the recorded expression entails common genetic makeup in contradistinction to the other life forms mentioned, known at least by the writer of the manuscript and known by surface value of the text to Adam, the person making the statement. Common contradistinctive genetic makeup has only been known within recent years by our generation. Functional knowledge among the ancients surpassed the commonly held view among anthropologists. 5. Speech anatomy. Leave his father and mother and shall cleave. The complicated structure of the larynx system and the ability of the oral muscles to frame these words far surpasses commonly held views regarding developing man, such as Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon. 6. Parallel expression. Bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. Called woman, because he came from man, or taken out of man. Leave his father and mother. Cleave unto his wife. They shall be one flesh. Repeats concept of common flesh as first mentioned in ion parallelism. This form of poetry and complicated expression reveals a highly developed ability in expression. Poetic declamation. Not only is this a form of complicated poetic expression, but it is a progressive statement encompassing origin, state, and destiny of the speaking person, Adam, and the audience, woman, to be heard and observed by future generations, father and mother. Developing man is totally incapable of this speech form. 8.8. Domestic attachment. They shall be one flesh. Monogamy and union are expressed and pronounced in this declamation. Filial and romantic ties are strongly suggested. Domestic orientation. Knew Eve, his wife. That's point 9. Position and physical union are both expressed in an oriented sense. Father, mother, and children are listed by name. 10. Incident reference. Knew, conceived, have gotten a man. A conscious reference is made to physical relations, conception, and birth. Detailed sensitivities are honorably expressed with a deliberate emphasis on time and events. Point 11. Occasional distinction, occupational distinction. Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. This concept exposes more than a casual reference to occupation. In short expression, we are given names, occupation, and job descriptions. Keeper and tiller are in correct reference to their appropriate occupations. 12. Time perspective. Tiller of the ground in process of time brought of the fruit of the ground. Recognition of time, cultivation, and harvest require sophistication and concept. Man is again seen as being mature, sensitive, and competent. Point 13. Environmental cultivation. Tiller of the ground. Anthropologists agree that mature man is the only creature which can deliberately alter his environment. Deliberate cultivation for harvesting purposes is clearly described, requiring concept and intent. Point 14. Religious preoccupation. Adam brought an offering unto the Lord. Religious exercise is ascribed to man alone. Conscious religious activity with a specific offering to a specific God is described. 15. Conceptual anarchy. Cain was very wroth, and the Lord said, the related expression is that of anger to the point of vindictive action against the established authority. Point 16. Emotional response, which is negative, and his countenance fell. It displayed emotional response to a person relating to an event in time, followed by consequences of that response can only be interpreted in the light of cultured man. Point 17. Criminal propensity, an individual. Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. Meaningful commentary is given with insight into an individual moral shortfall. Anthropologists view morality and accountability to have developed very late in man's descent. Social anthropologists recognize criminal propensity as being the experience of truly modern man. Really. Guilt consciousness. My punishment is greater than I can bear. Modern sophistication and sensitivities are in view in a very ancient context. Knowledge that this guilt complex would follow in his experience for years authenticates the test as being more than embellished writing. We have point 19. Moral designation. Whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. So his moral responsibility to a person and consequences in the event of failure are clearly defined. Detection and restriction relating the guilty person are also enforced. This describes sophisticated structure. 20. Territorial recognition. Dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. General extent and boundaries are indicated with geographic notation. Fully developed human characteristics are certainly in view, with emphasis on recognition of these boundaries. Point 21. Material accumulation of an individual. And he builded a city. Accumulation beyond food gathering is a largely human experience. It's a uniquely human experience. Structured city building indicates sophistication. 22. Cultural identification. He builded a city and called the name of the city. There is no mistaking the fact that cultural extension and establishment are intended in the test. Scope and extent are not indicated, but cultural implications are explicit. Engineering development. Builded a city. In order to build or envision a city of any size or complexity, conceptual engineering functions are necessary. In some undeveloped communities, these functions are not written or even expressed, but the functions are envisioned and employed. The ability to place one small building in relation to another is a basic concept requiring engineering perspective. 24. Offspring endowment. And called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. Filial endowments are recognized as being an ultimate resource and expression of Homo sapiens. To find this characteristic listed among the ancients invited a restructuring of our views of man's history. He didn't evolve. He was that way since the beginning. And he's superior in the beginning. Material accumulation, which is cultural. Dwelt in tents, have cattle, in large numbers of individuals are emphasized in the context of having possessions. Previously, an individual had built a city, and now the description reaches beyond incidental practice to include the community. Point 26. Futuristic projection. Jabal, he was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such that have cattle. We here discover a principle of action and influence, which intentionally passes to succeeding generations, a resource of tents and cattle. Including in this influence upon future generations is the voluntary response of individuals within those future generations. Manual dexterity, point 27, such as handle the harp and the organ. Handling harps and organs requires conceptual and physical expertise of uncommon accomplishment. Skillful manipulation of instruments enlarges the musician and the cultural audience, particularly if the young are exposed to the influence of music. And we'll talk about this later.